This is the morning of the 7th of August, 2024. Interesting article written by Hugh Fitzgerald, Fitzgerald. And this is in reference to the Hamas leaders that Israel whacked. What the Washington Post left out from its story on Ismail Haniyeh. Another in-depth report from the flailing Washington Post on how Gazans reacted to the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh is more evidence of the Post's whitewashing of Hamas and of its animus toward Israel. For the most important thing, the thing which must always be mentioned in connection with Ismail Hamas, was left out. That is, the grand theft of $4 billion by Haniyeh, money stolen from the aid given by foreign donors for the benefit of the people of Gaza. The Post report does mention that Haniyeh lived a comfortable existence in Doha, but a comfortable existence does not do justice to a $4 billion theft. And while they are at it, any self-respecting reporters reporting on the theft of aid money by Haniyeh ought to mention the $4 billion stolen by the second Hamas leader, Khalid Mashallah, and the $3 billion accumulated by yet a third leader, Musa Abu Morzak. All three of those got whacked by Israel. The full Post report can be found here. Death of Hamas chief draws mixed reaction in war-battled Gaza, by Miriam Berger and Hajar Harb of the Washington Post, August 3rd, 2024. For many Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was one of them. Haniyeh was one of them. That farcical description of a thieving billionaire is a tribute to Hamas' ability to control information reaching people in Gaza, keeping them from the terrible truth about Ismail Haniyeh, Khalid Mashallah, and Musa Abu Morzak. As soon as he rose sufficiently high through the ranks of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh ceased to be one of them. That is, one of the ordinary people of Gaza he pretended to care about, and became their grasping oppressor, who over nearly 2 decades proceeded, like two of his fellow Hamas leaders, to rob them blind. He grew up in a refugee camp and attended school run by the United Nations, even as he climbed the ranks of Hamas, briefly serving as Palestinian Prime Minister. Haniyeh continued to live in the camp, playing soccer in the streets and nurturing his image as a modest leader. He was nurturing his image, all right. He presented himself as just a guy, this down-to-earth Ismail Haniyeh, never putting on airs, just as genuine and unassuming as they come, kicking a ball around with Shahab, showing that despite his ever-ascending rank in Hamas, he remained one of the boys, never letting power go to his head. Of course, he knew this act was the best way to keep Gazans convinced he was one of them. He would keep them from discovering his colossal wealth with real estate holdings in Europe and Qatar, and those secret Swiss bank accounts, a Palestinian male version of Jenny from the block. But by the time he was killed in early Wednesday in Tehran in an operation Hamas blamed on Israel, Haniyeh had been living far from Gaza for 8 years, preferring in 2006 to move his office to Doha than to endure life in the Strip. As the Hamas political chief, he split most of his time between Qatar and Turkey, courting diplomats and dignitaries, more than 1,100 miles away from Gaza. However, the movement he led had staged a brutal attack in Israel on October 7th. Haniyeh, of course, was in on the attack. He helped to plan it. The IDF at once responded to the Hamas atrocities on the day with ferocious counterattack, beginning a campaign that was now lasted 10 months, the longest war in Israel's history. The IDF was and remains determined to destroy Hamas as a functioning military force, and since October 7th, Ismail Haniyeh did not know it, but he was a dead man walking. Residents there said many people, whether they supported Hamas or not, mourned Haniyeh's death as the loss of Palestinian leader, one of many who have been killed over the years. Others said they were torn, angry that Haniyeh was killed by what they suspect was Israeli operatives, but with little sympathy for the man who dined in Istanbul and Doha while they lived in fear of constant Israeli fire. How understated to the Washington Post to describe Haniyeh's excesses as only being a matter of fancy meals in Istanbul and Doha, while avoiding any mention of the $4 billion he stole from the donors, aid meant to ameliorate the living conditions of the people in Gaza. How remarkably reluctant the Washington Post reporters were to mention this essential fact about Haniyeh, and how telling, too, that the editors back in Washington never suggested that the fact of his colossal wealth and its source ought to have been included in a report as a central part of the story of Ismail Haniyeh. You need to repost this. You need to pass it along to your like-minded friends. And thanks for listening.